This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. A school in Ukraine is struck by a Russian missile, killing many civilians. The trade in fake medications is to be tackled head-on. And there's some good news as borders reopen for the first time in 2 years. But first, more from our main story. A school in Ukraine has been hit by a Russian missile and 60 civilians have been killed. The United Nations chief has condemned the attack and has said that these kind of casualties are not acceptable and it should never happen again. The problem with that is they most certainly will happen again. As we see here, the attack on the school created an appalling loss of life. Civilians sheltering in this building, one that was marked with signs as a place of sanctuary and not of war. But a Russian artillery round in an instant obliterated this refuge. The certainty that these kind of casualties will happen again and again is due to the type of war that Russia is fighting. The images you are looking at are of Mariupol. What you see is the Russians have carpet bombed this city as well as others, and they are simply levelling them. There is no discrimination as to who is civilian and who is military. Quite simply, all is destroyed, or, as Mr. Putin would have you believe, liberated. And this strategy is not gaining them much ground. On this map, we can see over the past month the entire weight of the Russian army in the east of Ukraine has gained almost no ground. So the question is, why is this? The Russian dumb bombs follow a ballistic profile. The higher you drop it, the longer it flies and the less accurate they are. And they can land 4 miles away from their intended target. Whereas the smart bombs, dropped primarily by the Ukrainians, have a target radius of less than 4 feet. Now think about that. I could drop a bomb just 4 feet from where you are. Or, with the Russians, it could be 4 miles away. That is what's making the difference in this war and has stalled the Russian advance. The Ukrainians can strike like a snake, whilst the Russian bear is drunk on anger and flails in all directions, hoping for a hit. Whilst the Russians were flattening cities this week, the Ukrainians showed how deadly accuracy is. This is Snake Island. It's a very small patch of land. On it are a few military buildings. Those are those orange dots you can see almost in the centre of the island. The Russians took this by force some weeks ago, but maybe they wish they never did. It has caused them nothing but misery. Now, here it is on the map. If you look to your 3 o'clock, what you'll see is Crimea. That red tag mark is where Snake Island lays. And just above it, slightly at the 1 o'clock, is Odessa. And that's what it's all about. That is a crucial port. Now, what Russia wants to do is turn that island into a missile base. But it's all going horribly wrong. This week, the Ukrainians showed what precision bombing can do. This is a Russian military helicopter. It's just landed on Snake Island. The white dots about it are Russian soldiers that are disembarking. But bang! That is what a single surgical strike can do. And judging by the explosion in the aftermath, which is quite simply vast, we can only surmise it was carrying munitions. It is not just on the island itself. What you're looking at now is a Raptor-class boat. They are named so because they're extremely fast, extremely agile, and potentially deadly. And to see what the Ukrainians can do against such a fast-moving target is quite simply incredible. as yet again they're obliterated. They took out 2 of these this week with the Bayraktar missile system. To the Ukrainians, it doesn't matter whether it's at land or at sea. They can locate their target and, like a surgeon, they can surgically strike. The Russian bear is reeling around, bludgeoning entire cities. But have a thought for a moment for those Russian soldiers that are on Snake Island. They are being battered. The morale of the Russian soldier seems to be at an all-time low, because no matter where they turn, they can be hit. You're either in your hole or you're exposed to an attack. And this week's assault on the school that killed 60 people is truly a tragic affair. And the UN chief may well say this kind of thing should not happen. But when you understand as to how the Russians are going to war, then unfortunately, we must expect more tragedy. One in every 10 medical products circulating in low-income countries is either substandard or fake, according to the research by the WHO. The use of substandard and fake antibiotics caused 169,000 children to die from pneumonia alone in a single year. The issue is extremely serious, and with the help of the WHO, the government is now taking action. Since 2013, the WHO has received thousands of reports of cases of substandard or falsified products. Of these, antimalarials and antibiotics are the most commonly reported. A WHO spokesman said, "Many of these products, like antibiotics, are vital for people's survival and well-being." Prior to 2013, there was no global reporting of this information, but since WHO established the global surveillance system for substandard and fake products, many countries are now active in reporting suspicious medicines, vaccines, and medical devices. The WHO has published research that estimates over 10% failure rate in all medical products that are used in low and middle-income countries. In response to this blight, the Ministry of Health has stepped up the drive against the sale of fake, substandard, and expired medicines across the entire country. A Ministry of Health spokesman said this week, "People's health was at risk from poor quality medicines. The ministry has been working very closely with the police to search and monitor pharmacies to see whether the medicines lack quality." They added, "The ministry is working to create a digital platform to monitor and track fake, substandard, and expired medicines. Some of these medications can lead to very serious conditions and even death." The WHO has been supporting the Ministry of Health in developing and updating Cambodia's list of essential medical supplies based on the WHO technical recommendations so that people who need medical care can access it safely and know that the medicines they receive will be of a higher quality. Normality is returning as 31 more border crossings are opening after 2 long years. Crossings that were only open to freight and trade vehicles are now welcoming tourists and citizens who can cross at any of the 31 checkpoints starting this month. Thailand and Cambodian border security officials this week shook hands to signify the opening of land crossings. Many checkpoints between Thailand and Cambodia reopened, including at the province of Surin. The crossing is now open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The news comes on the same day as 3 Thai-Malaysian border crossings have also reopened. A spokesperson for Thailand's CCSA said the department agreed to open the 31 land border checkpoints in 17 provinces at the start of May. To enter Thailand by land, vaccinated travellers from neighbouring countries, including Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar and Malaysia, can enter without the need to submit a COVID-19 test. Your passport and vaccination card, as well as $10,000 insurance, will be needed. For unvaccinated travellers, they may also enter via land, but they will need to provide a negative PCR test, as well as purchasing the insurance. The news is a major policy shift and will be welcomed not just in the region, but also globally. As the trials against the Khmer Rouge come to an end after so many long years and a torrent of emotions, it is now that questions are being raised. What was achieved in the pursuit of justice? And was justice really served against the men and women who converted an entire nation into a production line of misery and of death? Since 2006, the extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia, known as the ECCC, has been prosecuting ex-members of the Khmer Rouge, and soon its work will be finished. Historical experts have lauded its legacy, yet many Khmer Rouge survivors say it has fallen woefully short in bringing peace of mind to the victims. The cost was staggering. As of 2012, it was over $173 million. In an article, the diplomat said, "Those who seek to belittle the credibility of the tribunal frequently cite statistics comparing the Cambodian ECCC and its 5 indictments with 61 from former Yugoslavia and 95 from Rwanda. But some of the failings in the quest for justice are rightly blamed on the West. Not only did the international community fail to seek to bring the Khmer Rouge to justice from 1979 to 1997, but they resupplied and rearmed the Khmer Rouge to fight a proxy war against the new Cambodian government. But the most astonishing fact to many is the exiled Khmer Rouge, under the name of Democratic Kampuchea, occupied Cambodia's seat in the United Nations General Assembly until 1990, which to many is a crime in itself. The 30-year trial delay limited the number of Khmer Rouge leaders who could possibly put on trial. Pol Pot and his top military commander, Tam Mok, and others died long before the ECCC was ever convened. And without the Khmer Rouge Tribunal, Cambodia would not be able to record and preserve the history of the Khmer Rouge and establish the most important element of the trials, and that is to build the critical foundation for the rule of law, which is very vital for national reconciliation. The trial may be over, but the suffering goes on, as in the distance the legacy of the Khmer Rouge is still heard, as yet another landmine explodes, causing yet more misery. Last week, we reported that analysts voiced their fears of a potential global recession. And last week was certainly a turmoil in the markets as Asian stocks fell and investors became anxious about inflation and the ongoing impact of China's COVID-19 lockdown policies. This caused stocks to head deep into negative territory. Global markets have taken a beating over a series of crises, including surging inflation, rising interest rates, China's economic slowdown, and of course, war in Ukraine. Investors were given yet more bad news this week as China's April exports slumped to their lowest ever level in almost 2 years, due to Beijing's strict zero-COVID policy, which has pushed millions of people into lockdown and halted manufacturing in many regions. Exports plunged by 3.9% in China, while imports were stagnant for April. Chinese customs spokesman Li Qiaowen tried to strike an upbeat note by saying the economy still had room to make a turnaround. But financial experts are much less optimistic. One said, Asian equities are down heavily in the red this week as regional markets react to tightening of the COVID-19 restrictions within China and fears of a prolonged slowdown in the world's second largest economy. Markets briefly lifted after a solid American jobs report, but the uptake was short-lived as the United States' fierce monetary tightening has continued to send traders running for the hills. The S&P, Nasdaq and Nikkei all fell this week. And there may be more downsides as the markets worry about significant economic slowdown, aggressive interest rate hikes, oil fluctuations, and, of course, war in Europe. And now it's time to look at our sports news. There are many legendary moments in football, like Roberto Baggio's penalty miss, or that goalkeeper's fantastic scorpion kick. But the number one most memorable soccer moment was when Diego Maradona used his hand to score the winner against England in the Mexico World Cup. Well, that shirt worn by Maradona has now sold at auction for over $8.5 million. He scored the Hand of God goal for Argentina against England at the '86 Cup. It is the highest price ever paid for a piece of sports memorabilia. It was given to the midfielder Steve Hodge after he swapped it with Maradona at the end of the famous quarter-final in Mexico. The previous highest fee paid for a shirt worn by a sports star was held by New York Yankees legend Babe Ruth. His baseball jersey sold for $5.6 million in 2019. With the Hand of God shirt, it is incredible to think that the England player was handed it for free. Now let's have a quick look at the Premier League in England. We have 3 graphics to get through this week, so let's speed on through like a dodgy vindaloo through the lower intestines. And the 2 to look at here are, of course, Man City and Liverpool. Man City pulling off a mighty 5-0 win, and Liverpool drew. And the importance of this as we go over to our second graphic is quite apparent. There they are at 1 and 2, Man City and Liverpool, and that draw cost Liverpool valuable points. Arsenal won, Chelsea drew, so now Arsenal are just 1 point away from Chelsea for that all-important third slot. Now, bear in mind, we only have 2 games left to go. And as we switch to the base of the league, we see those that are going to fall into the abyss, which at the moment are Leeds, Watford and Norwich. But there's our adopted team, Burnley, and they are literally hanging on by their knuckles because they're on the same points as Leeds. They've just got a few more goals. So it couldn't be more exciting as we head into the last 2. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week. And the weather outlook is very much the same as the past week, and just like dating on Tinder, it starts out pretty bad over the weekend and then only gets worse, with more storms coming in at the beginning of next week. And have a look at that humidity, well over 50%. So it's going to be hot and it's going to be sticky. This has been the Khmer Times News. You can contact myself at the studio by mailing us at ktnewsstudio@gmail.com. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next Saturday for your weekly roundup.